Well, hello there, America and all the ships at sea. I can't remember even who said that. Some famous broadcaster from yesteryear, and I can't remember who it was. At any rate, this is Brent Smith, and I'm the Common Constitutionalist, and you'll notice that this is not the weekend video podcast. It is an audio version. The weather is conducive for what I need to do outside, but Brent Smith, the Common Constitutionalist, is doggy-doo tired. I just don't have the strength. I've been going since about 6:30 this morning, non-stop. It's now late afternoon on Saturday, and I am freaking beat. So I ain't going outside to show my ugly, worn-out face to everybody, so you can just hear my ugly, worn-out voice instead. So there you go. So today I'm going to be talking about a couple of topics. First, Seattle's hose problem. We'll get into that. It's a classic, people. And let's talk climate change again. So that's what I'll be discussing today on the Common Constitutionalist Weekend Audio Podcast. Be right back.
You are listening to the Common Constitutionalist, broadcasting from an undisclosed location, free from the prying eyes of establishment black helicopters.
Okay, I'm back. The first segment. It'll be quick. I just want to touch on this because the absurdity is to the nth degree. I'm not sure it's even calculable how absurd this is. So real quick, Seattle's homeless / feces problem, shall we say. So a lot of major cities have this problem. Crap and drug needles all over the streets, literally crap on the streets, feces on the streets, urine all over the place, drug needles all over the place, trash, other paraphernalia on the streets and sidewalks. It's literally everywhere in some cities. And it's a constant battle of how to get rid of it. I mean, it's not like it's just like a one and done kind of deal. You got to deal with this like on a weekly basis at least. And if you're something like, I mean, look at Los Angeles. They've got, 60,000 homeless people in LA County alone? You multiply that by everybody's got to take a dump at least once a day, I would think, unless you're constipated. So you're talking 1 or 2 dumps a day times 60 grand. You're talking about 120 dumps to, 180 dumps a day? Something like that. I mean, it's just 180,000. Holy crap, literally. Yee, that's nasty. So anyway, in Seattle, the thought is they thought of the logical, it seems like, to power wash the crap and the needles and everything down into the storm drains and wash it away. I mean, it sounds like a reasonable and I think probably relatively economical way to deal with things. Not to mention that you don't have some guy literally going out there and picking up poo. I mean, what would you have to pay somebody to do that? Holy crud. I mean, it's one thing to go out and take your dog for a walk and pick up the poo in a bag. You turn the bag inside out and you pick it up and then you turn it right side back or right side out. And then you just seal the bag, take it home and throw it in the trash or the nearest receptacle or whatever. But human poo, man? Holy crap. No, I don't know. I don't know that you could pay me enough to do that. But somebody taking a power washer, at least you could keep your distance and move it away from you instead of having to approach him, say, intimately, shall we say. But unfortunately, the power washing is not so fast, Kimosabe. A little Indian lingo there for you. So you know how everything these days for the Democrats and the liberals, the leftists, whatever, it always, if all else fails, it boils down to what? Race and racism. That's it. So how do you make the inconceivable leap of power washing to racism? Well, they found a way, or at least one city councilman found a way. Frankly, I'm not even going to mention the guy's name because he's just such a freaking dope. It's unbelievable. He doesn't even deserve the publicity, negative or otherwise. So his reasoning, and he's a black city councilman, shocker, is that you can't use hoses to wash away the crap because it will bring back memories and images of when racists used fire hoses to put down blacks in the South. You want to talk about a stretch, bro. Holy crud. And it's hard to even know whether these guys are serious or not. I mean, I don't know what this guy's angle is or whether he actually does think this. He looks to be probably in his early 40s or something like that. So, I mean, it's not like he's some dopey-ass millennial, excuse my French, but still, I mean, everything to these people is race and racism. And I'm convinced that these idiots, they lie awake in bed at night or during the day, who knows what, and think of ways to inject race into literally everything. So I don't know what his idea of getting rid of the waste and needles and feces and everything else, but I guess if you're okay with dodging landmines all over the city streets and on the sidewalks and that, I guess so be it. And you, in Seattle, in Los Angeles, in San Francisco, and everywhere else that there's a homeless/waste feces problem, you can't blame anyone but yourselves. You were the idiots who voted these morons in. So until you guys start getting smart, and not smart by just moving away to turn some other county or state blue because of your mindless idiocy, why don't you try reflecting? Look in the mirror and say, you know what? Am I really voting for the right people? Is this the guy that I want representing me in Seattle? Are you freaking kidding me? So that's about all I got for feces on the streets. Power washing is racism. Yeah, you just can't make this crap up. It's unbelievable. Be right back.
You're listening to The Common Constitutionalist. Let the truth be known.
All right, I am back. And again, my name is Brent Smith, and I'm the Common Constitutionalist. And if you're watching, that's a shame. But if you're listening, thank you. I really appreciate it. And you can do the click and the like and the share and all that other happy crap, because you know it's well worth it. I'm imparting knowledge to everybody, so there you go. So how about we talk a little something on climate change, shall we? The first thing you should notice about climate change is that literally no one on the left or right is calling this global warming anymore. You never hear that. And you think that's by accident? No, it's not. I mean, if the individuals or groups that have been promoting man-caused climate change thought that there was any merit left in using the term global warming, you think we'd be using climate change? Hell no, we wouldn't. We'd still be using global warming. So they've focus grouped this thing to death or whatever the crap it is, or they've seen that, hey, the globe's not actually warming, so maybe we should just call it climate change, because you know what the climate does all the time? It's right, it changes. Shazam. And then you go ahead and start nudging people into the new term climate change. You just keep using it until everybody gloms onto climate change without thinking a whit about what climate change actually means. And what it actually means is a changing climate, which does all the time, century after century, millennia after millennia, and, whatever. Eon after eon, whatever. I don't know what comes after that. Whatever. But other than, death, taxes, and the sun rising every day, climate change is one of those true constants. It's really the only one of those true constants if you want to put a meaning to it. And if the public would just use their brains, they would realize this and then figure out that the whole scare is nothing but politically and financially motivated is the bottom line. And believe you me, it is scaring people. And it is. Look at the people out there that actually believe in man-caused climate change. It's insane. But this is exactly what the leftists want. This is exactly what these people who keep pushing global warming and climate change or climate chaos or climate catastrophe or whatever the next buzzword is or is going to be, it's exactly what they want. And it's what the left always wants. Check that. It's what the left always requires. I mean, just look at anything the left, I mean, whatever the political or financial initiative they're pushing at the time, every single thing they suggest costs crap loads of money, and it's always public sector money, of course, or a public-private partnership. Yeah, okay, the private is going to be the silent partner. Shut up and give us your money, and we'll take care of the rest. That's a public-private partnership. But it's also a component of control, of course. Because leftists, particularly academics and the scientists and whatnot, they know best how to live our lives. After all, they went to Ivy League schools for it, and we didn't. And one thing you also should notice, that every time something needs to get done, it needs to get done in a big freaking hurry. There's always a deadline or merely something that must be done, and whatever that something is must be done right now, while people are all hyped up on emotion and can't think straight, which is exactly what they're looking for. And this is why they prey on the fear factor. You notice, I mean, not to change the subject much, but it's the same type of thing as gun control legislation, or at least the wackiest crap. It never really gets passed, at least not in the red states. And it's because the legislature in these states takes the time to actually deliberate things, slow things down, allow the emotions and the fever pitch to die down, and then everybody's thinking with their brains and not their hearts. And that's why this stuff doesn't pass, because it's useless, the same as climate change legislation is useless. But that's why they want to get this stuff passed in an emotional fever pitch, because they know, maybe better than we know, that once you pass a law, good, bad, or indifferent, that law is more than likely there literally forever. They almost never get repealed. And that's why it's so imperative for us to not allow knee-jerk legislation to even see the light of day, much less get to a vote. But that's the difference between red states and blue states. In these blue states, that's exactly what happens. However, we never seem to be reminded that none of the crap laws that they previously passed prevent or will prevent anything. So instead of taking a look at what we did wrong and maybe repealing the nonsense that didn't make any sense, that didn't have any effect on anything, let's just pass some new laws that won't prevent any criminals from being criminals and so on and so forth. So we'll take another quick break. Be right back.
You're listening to the Common Constitutionalist. Let the truth be known.
All right, I am back, and once again, I'm Brent Smith. I'm the Common Constitutionalist, and again, thank you for hanging in there and listening. So anyway, speaking of crap, listen to this. This is from the Union of Concerned Scientists. Oh yes, they are sure concerned. They're concerned with every leftist policy under the sun. That's what they're concerned with. They're not concerned about it. They're concerned with making sure that they all pass. And you couldn't get any more leftist or command and control than the Union of Concerned Scientists if Karl Marx put the damn thing together himself. So here's a quote from the Union of Concerned Scientists. Quote, Hurricane Dorian, the one that's going to be hitting very soon the Florida coast, or maybe, actually I heard that some of the Florida coast may dodge a bullet on this one, but at any rate, this was written a day or two ago, so we'll cut the Union of Concerned Scientists a slight bit of slack. Quote, Hurricane Dorian is slowly churning its way toward Florida's Atlantic coast and is expected to make landfall on Monday or Tuesday as a potentially catastrophic Category 4 storm. And that it would be if it remains a Category 4 and it hits any landfall, that landfall is going to be hurting for certain, bro. I've been through plenty of hurricanes in my day, and that's a double-edged sword, because frankly they're kind of fun when they start, but the aftermath of it is a freaking disaster for most people. But there's nothing better than surfing on the front end of a hurricane before it actually comes in and hits land. It's way cool surfing a hurricane, bro, because it's got some serious waves. Yeah, buddy. Okay, anyway, so I digress. Back to the quote. Quote, even as our hearts hope for the safety of the people of Florida, we scientists are often asked about the connection between hurricanes and climate change. Of course you are. Back to the quote. Quote, and next Wednesday, I forgot about this one. And next Wednesday, presidential candidates will also be on the hook to answer some hard questions about climate change and how we must respond as a nation, unquote. The leftist Democrat presidential candidates will be on the hook? Really? The Democrat hacks will be on the hook? As if any of the 10 on the stage will say something other than, oh yes, we agree with man-caused climate change, we agree that it's killing the planet, and only America must pay in dollars and freedom, because it's all our fault, despite it's not our fault, but whatever. Or despite that it's not anyone's fault. They'll all be pushing the hell out of the latest custom-made crisis, Hurricane Dorian, which, again, I'm not making light of this thing, but it's a naturally occurring thing, a hurricane, and that means it just occurs in nature, all by itself, with no help from man. But we'll hear all about how mankind and American personal greed and consumption has caused this hurricane and why this hurricane is so powerful. Maybe it'll be a Category 10, I don't know. And it's because the oceans are so warm, which causes so much more moisture in the air, which causes more rain and more flooding and blah, 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 blah. That's what you're going to hear. So like I said, I am not downplaying Dorian. If this sucker makes landfall as a Category 4, it will literally be a killer. But it's also, if I recall correctly, since June, which I think there's the kickoff of hurricane season on the Atlantic seaboard, it's the only major hurricane of the season. So why haven't all these warming conditions caused more hurricanes to form? Huh? I don't know. There's no answer. Son of a gun. It's called, oh yeah, that's right, nature. And the point about it is, no one knows, and no one on the left, no reporters, no nothing, are ever going to ask any of these so-called experts why there aren't so many hurricanes if the water is so bloody warm and the air and the blah, 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 and all that other crap that's attributed to climate change and global warming. Why aren't there more hurricanes? And, of course, nobody on the left is going to ask them because they know what's good for them. You can't go off the reservation here, gang. So for you on the left and the right, those who believe in man-caused climate change, I can't use global warming anymore because that's so last couple years or something, I don't know. Ask yourself just why the term was changed to climate change. It's a very simple question, but if the world is supposedly warming and all the warm weather's causing all these catastrophic events, why don't they just call it global warming? I mean, I'm serious. No one is suggesting that there's any global cooling, so why did they change the terminology? Well, I'm going to take one more quick break, and then I'll be right back and continue with some more climate change stuff. Maybe a little history lesson. Be right back. You're listening to me, the Common Constitutionalist.
Yeah, baby! Yeah.
All right, I'm back for the final segment. Again, Brent Smith, Common Constitutionalist. Gotta love me. Yeah. Yeah, I guess you don't gotta, but it would help, I'm just saying. And all these questions that I asked before the last break, these are actual questions that you should be asking yourself and your friends and acquaintances and colleagues and whatnot. Just what are the answers to these questions? I mean, ask people why global warming is, you don't hear about it anymore, and now it's all climate change. We know, obviously there's a logical reason, because the climate always changes, and no matter what happens, they can blame it on man. Period. That's the reason. It's that bloody simple. But I don't know that people even think in these terms, or even think about this kind of crap. They should, but they don't. So here's some more questions that we need to ask ourselves, and a little bit of history, like I said. People need to ask themselves this before they just go blindly jumping on the eco train, or maybe they should think about getting off the freaking eco train. There have been 5 what we call major periods in Earth's, we'll say modern history, and just by modern I mean back hundreds of millions of years ago because the Earth is thought to be about 4.5 billion years old. So thoroughly modern would be a few hundred million years. That's modern. There you go. So the first major period was the Permian period, and this was that supercontinent Pangaea that we see and always hear about and everybody knows and whatever. And that was about 225 million years ago. Then there was a kind of like, I guess you could call it our planetary version of the Big Bang, and where the continents broke into 4 pieces and then started expanding outward. This was the Triassic period, and this happened about 200 million years ago. Then more splitting occurred during the Jurassic period, and that's when the park opened up. Ha! Yeah, get it? Yeah, buddy. That was about 150 million years ago, and this formed 6 continents, so 2 additional continents fractured off and started to expand themselves. Then the Cretaceous period, about 65 million years ago, and this is when the dinosaurs got knocked off and all that other crap. I wonder why. Oh, yeah. It was probably climate change. No, I'm kidding. So, and that's when we also finally got our last and 7th continent, and then the continents just kept expanding, as it were. And then finally to the present day, where you have the 7 continents in relative order for now. They haven't stopped moving, by the way, folks. And all the while all these periods happened over the last several 100 million years, something was happening. Shazlam! Again, the climate changed. And it just kept changing. Without man-made pollution, without plastics or SUVs or anything. I was going to say without oil, but as long as animals and plants are dying and decomposing, we're going to have oil. And no amount of solar panels or windmills is going to halt continental shift, folks. And with continental shift comes volcanoes, and they wake up and they warm things up, and more shifting and differing wind pattern occurs, sunspots occur, all sorts of stuff that affects climate occurs without the input of man, which is what's been happening for millennia. So the last ice age, which started about 2.6 million years ago, lasted until about 11,000 years ago. But what made it end, I wonder? Could it have been? That's right, climate change. That's right, climate change. And it wasn't even climate change. It's continental shift. It's the sun. It's the wind. It's the continental shift. And as the continents break up, shift, and move outward continually, this is going to change ocean currents, which is going to change wind patterns, which is going to change climate. I'm no freaking climatologist, but I can read and I can think for myself. This stuff is logical, man. It ain't rocket science, but it's science nonetheless. And it's not hard to fathom this stuff. And that's what melted the ice. So we don't have an ice age again. Where I'm sitting right now was about a 2-mile thick glacier over my head over 11,000 years ago. That's not a comfortable feeling, bro. That's pressure packed, if I shall say. But it's not man-caused warming. Look at the glaciers in Iceland. Man-caused warming isn't causing that. Climate change isn't causing that. You know what's causing those glaciers to melt in Iceland? That's right. The glaciers are on top of volcanoes, and as the Earth's crust shifts, the liquid hot magma rises to the surface, warms up the glaciers, and melts them. Duh. It's so rudimentary, you just get a duh. And that's all it is. It's just change. Call it whatever you want. Call it climate change, call it shifting Earth, call it sunspots, call it, the orbit of the moon, whatever the heck you want to do it. It all has to do, this stuff will all affect the climate. Ocean currents, wind patterns, all this crap that we don't understand will affect the climate. It'll affect your environment. You want to affect your environment? Walk into your kitchen and turn your stovetop, all burners on your stovetop, and turn the oven on to 500 degrees and open the door, and then come back an hour later. You got some climate change in your kitchen, don't you? That's right. And then if you want the climate to cool in your kitchen, you turn the oven off, and you turn the stovetop off, and you let it cool down, and it'll go back to normal. Another way, go to the largest room in your house. Take just a regular old fan. just one of those box fans, those floor fans. Turn it on low and just point it to the ceiling, then point it to the floor, then point it left, point it right. Guess what? The climate in the living room is going to change because of the shifting wind patterns. Wow, this is really tough to understand, ain't it? No, it's not tough to understand. What is hard, and what the warming weenies will admit when you press them on it, or when they get pressed on it, is that we have absolutely no understanding overall of weather and wind and ocean currents and the sun and the moon and everything that affects the continental shift, volcanoes and earthquakes and all this other crap. All this stuff affects the climate. Unfortunately, we don't know exactly how it affects it, just that it does. Fact is we know about Jack Diddley about the climate. But we do know, or at least the ones that think with our brains, know that the climate changes all the time, and it occurs naturally whether we are here or not. It doesn't make any difference. But the problem is that human beings are weird that way. We're never satisfied with not knowing. It's in our DNA, maybe literally, I don't know. So if we don't know and we can't find an easy way to explain it or answer it, along come some know-it-all do-gooder academics and scientists, and of course hucksters, and they'll explain the unexplainable to the serfs, to us. And because they have credentials from the University of Climate Change or whatever the crap, we believe them because they're unassailable, and also because we're desperate to understand why the climate is changing, why there's floods and droughts and everything else that have been happening since the world formed. But this is the same pattern used by leftists for literally everything, where some expert will come up and say, I know the answer, then give people some dim-witted answer, then they accept it out of whole cloth without any critical thought whatsoever, and then it just gets permeated throughout society, and it becomes a science fact instead of science nonsense, instead of junk science. But I guess the bottom line on this thing is that if everyone on the planet, all mankind, womankind, whatever, even transgenders, if they all disappeared tomorrow, if we all just vanished tomorrow, the climate would just go on changing like it's done since the Earth, developed the climate in the first place. We will never be able to stop climate change. I mean, until we can stop the sun from changing or shining or what, if we could freeze the sun in a certain way, then then we could stop climate change. We'd have to stall the moon's orbit, so that would never shift or change. And then we'd have to stop the shift of the continents, so that way the winds would never shift, the ocean currents would never change, and other than that, that's a piece of cake. When we can do all that, then maybe we could control the climate. And there you go. So that's all I've got. My name is Brent Smith. I'm the Common Constitutionalist. Really appreciate you guys listening. And again, click, like, share, whatever. But I hope this has been helpful and slightly informative. At least maybe this Seattle thing. Holy crap-a-rooney, literally. See ya.